My Lords, just very briefly, because I'm so glad that these amendments were put forward, because it gives us a chance to just reflect on something. I do actually think that, you know, when we had that statement that says that to determine what's right and wrong between different countries and cultures is very complicated, so it's easier to say it has got no place in the game. That seems fair enough to me. It's complicated politics, and we find it complicated in this place, and we're the legislators and the politicians. Once you start introducing it into football, you can get into a real mess. But I also am not sure about a few things, so I wanted to share some confusion. One difficulty is that, for example, we heard from the Noble Lord Hayward last week that he doesn't consider, for example, the rainbow armband to be political. And I actually think that it's highly ideological and political. But last month, the FA dedicated a 35-minute video to the Rainbow Laces campaign, showcasing an activist-heavy panel that included its, I'm having to read this, its Women's Talent and Senior Game EDI Consultant and Coach Developer. I mean, that title gives the game away before we go anywhere. And guess what? That particular individual used to work for Stonewall before was then brought into football. And I think that whether, you know, I would hope that we would understand here that Stonewall is at least a highly contentious political organisation and is now at the heart of defining what is considered to be inclusive football. And the problem with this profusion of rainbows and laces and pitch flags and ball plinths and all the rest of it, all of that branding, is that if you object to it on the basis of politics, you're then accused of being insensitive to, or indeed to lesbian and gay people, and homophobic, whereas indeed it's the very opposite, because I think trans ideology is discriminatory against lesbians and gays because it doesn't understand same-sex attraction. And if you're lost in all that and you think, oh God, what is she going on about? Fine. Therefore, it's a political matter, got nothing to do with football. And I do worry when football managers and football teams as organisations get embroiled in this. The thing that I wasn't sure about in terms of the amendments, though, was this idea. I'm usually the kind of populist Democrat that says, you know, vote on everything, go and have a vote. But I did wonder when he said, well, you know, see what the fans say and don't put out a statement unless the fans agree with you. Maybe it's because I'm from a kind of Celtic family at the moment. I'm from a Celtic family and some people who support Spurs. Now, if you can get your head around this. This is Celtic, whose fan base has gone completely bonkers on the Israel-Gaza question. Right? It's like kind of Hamas support group on tour. And the irony here is that actually their sloganeering in support, by the way, as they would say it, of the Green Brigade and all the rest of it, their support for Gaza resistance has put them completely at odds with Celtic's owners, with the board, with the Celtic Trust, and so on. Or no, in fact, Celtic Trust, the shareholders group agree with them. But it's kind of split the club. So I think, actually, everybody should just keep out of this. Let them sloganise away, but don't then get involved in one way or another. Make your political points about it. On the other hand, I cheered myself when Crystal Palace put out an official statement after the October the 7th pogrom and said, oh, great, you know, at last somebody's come out and condemned the murders and hostage-taking. And we've seen what's happened to Israeli teams who've been the subject of anti-Semitic attacks, almost brought down a government on the continent. You know, we know what's going on. And I'm interested in the football getting involved in that. And I've already commended those Spurs fans who have done grassroots campaigns in support of Emily Damari, the last remaining British hostage, and that young woman whose name I want Spurs fans to kind of chant on the ground, right? And actually, her uncle Rob is a Crystal Palace fan, so he pointed out, well, we might not have the grassroots thing, but at least Crystal Palace put a statement out. But the point is, I'm all into all that. So I genuinely do not want to say we should sanitise football clubs of all political discussion. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. What I don't want is the government interfering in it. What I don't want is a regulator being involved in it. And what I don't want are people basically being in a situation where they fail or refuse to acknowledge that they are putting forward policies like, for example, EDI policies, which are actually politics in disguise, but which won't admit their name. It's complicated politics, keep it out of football. The fans will just be political because they're stroppy like that.